It's been just under 2 months since I purchased my Apple iPad Air, and I did do like a no talking chill unboxing video when I bought it. I unboxed a new iPad as well as a lot of accessories I'd purchased for it. I did ask there if you guys would be interested in seeing what's on my iPad video in the future, and this is me making that video. And in this video I'm going to talk about why I chose this particular iPad and how I'm able to use it to make my life more productive, more organized, and to also be entertained and to also create digital art on it. A few months ago, I also did a what's on my phone video featuring my current phone, which is the Google Pixel 4a. I'm also going to link that over there. This will be in a similar style to that video, and it kind of ties in so you can see all of the different apps that I have on my phone as well. Before I actually start showing you guys what's on the iPad, I will take a minute to chat about this particular iPad, why I chose it, what I intended to do with it. Then I will show you guys like the actual screen. This might be a slightly long video, but I always have chapters or timestamps on my videos, so feel free to open the description bar. Then you can jump to like a particular section if you would like to do so. This is an iPad Air 4th generation, which as of me making this video is the most recently released iPad Air, as well as like the most recently released iPad overall. Initially it was just like iPad 2, but now there are many different types of iPads you can get. So the most basic one is the one that is just plain iPad. There's also iPad mini. When you go a little bit more expensive and a little bit more advanced, we have the iPad Airs, and then right at the top, the ones that are the most advanced but also the most expensive are the iPad Pros. Now I had been considering buying an iPad Pro for a little while, but I couldn't really justify the really expensive cost because it costs as much as like a really nice computer. This one has every single feature that I wanted in the Pro, but at a price that I could justify a little bit more. One of the superficial but cool things about this range of iPad Airs is that they are available in many different colors also. So the green, blue, pink, grey, as well as silver. I got the pink one. I think they call it rose gold. But we can all agree that this is kind of pink. This is a Wi-Fi only variant because they have Wi-Fi variant which is cheaper, and then they have Wi-Fi plus cellular variant. So that means you can put a SIM card in it and it kind of essentially acts as a phone, and that would be more handy if you're roaming like a lot, like around with your iPad, because you'll need it to have internet and it'll get internet through a SIM card, you know, like 4G connection and all of that. But since I essentially plan to use my iPad only at home where I have like a good Wi-Fi connection, I thought Wi-Fi was more than adequate for me, and I did not want to buy like another SIM card also. And there are two size variants. I think there's 64 GB and 256 GB. I went with the 256 gigabyte, like the larger storage alternative. I think having more storage is always good. I like having a lot of apps, and I like having just generally a lot of stuff on my electronic devices, and running out of space is not fun. iPad's definitely like not a necessity as a creator. Of course, you do need to have sort of a decent phone, and then you do need to have a computer, either a desktop or a laptop, to be able to edit stuff on, whether it's photos, videos, whatever. And the iPad is something that you can do without, but it does enhance your creativity and you're able to do more things with it. So for me, this was not an impulse purchase. I am like a recovering Apple fangirl, I guess, and I used to only use iPhones and only Apple stuff. From a few years now, I've switched to Android for my phone, and I really couldn't be happier. And to talk about my previous experience with iPads, my dad had purchased like the iPad 2 many years ago. I don't remember which year that released, but I think I was still in college or something, and I got to play with it. I never really was that impressed with it because it could just basically do what a phone could do, and it just had a larger size screen. Now, as there are many different versions of the iPads, like the iPad Air and the iPad Pro, yes, they have become a lot more expensive, but they are now really capable devices. I think it's been around 1.5 years since Apple released iPad OS. So before that, the operating system on the iPads used to basically be the same as the iPhone OS, but when they released iPad OS, that was when they gave the iPads a lot of different, like, really unique and really powerful capabilities. When I started hearing reviews about the like iPad OS and all is when I sat up and took notice, and I thought maybe in the future sometime I could definitely invest in this, and that is what I finally did. I also have the Apple Pencil, and my whole iPad experience would not be complete without this Apple Pencil. So there are 2 generations of Apple Pencils out. All of the iPads are not compatible with the pencils, and usually if the iPad is compatible, it's either compatible with the first one or the second one, not with both. So if you're looking to purchase an iPad and you're looking to purchase a pencil with it, you need to see whether it would be compatible with that. Now the first generation one is a little bit fiddly, the pencil, because you need to charge it manually and all. This pencil is really cool. You don't need to charge it separately. You just kind of put it to the side of the iPad. It attaches magnetically. Even though the pencil's in a case, it detects it at once and it gets charged over there. So it's actually a very seamless experience. And yes, the Apple Pencil costs a lot of money for what is essentially just a stylus, but it is a very advanced stylus, and I would not be able to create digital art or without the help of this pencil. Another really cool feature that you can use when you have the Apple Pencil is something called Scribble. So it works in basically all of like the note-taking apps. You can directly take the Apple Pencil and scribble onto the screen in handwriting. I've tried it with even pretty crappy handwriting. It converts that into like digital text, which makes note-taking very seamless. Typing on the iPad is not the most intuitive experience. I do have a keyboard that I can use with it. It connects with keyboards to Bluetooth really nicely, but I'm not always using this at a desk. So if I can directly make notes on the screen with the help of the Apple Pencil, like I was just using paper, that's the best possible experience. When I first bought this iPad and also bought all of the accessories and spent a bunch of money, my main worry was that I had not spent it in vain and that I would be able to put this to good use. Ever since I bought it, I have been kind of using it every single day for something or the other. I feel like it has been a really fulfilling purchase for me. And now that we've gotten done with the introductions and stuff, I can start showing you what is on the device. So the wallpapers that I'm using for the lock screen as well as the home screen are the default ones that come with it. I usually have the iPad on dark mode just because it conserves battery and it's better for your eyes. Though it doesn't look as pretty, it creates less glare and it helps you sleep better. This is how the wallpaper that I'm currently using looks on dark mode. You can see that it's a landscape scene, but it's actually like a nighttime scene, and then when I put it onto light mode, you can see the whole scene in daytime. I'm kind of obsessed with this little feature, even though it doesn't really mean much. It's purely aesthetic. Another minor feature on the iPad that I find really cool is that the whole iPad is very adaptive, and then most of the well-designed apps for iPad are also adaptive. When I say adaptive, I mean that it works really nicely if you hold it vertically in portrait mode, but then if you hold it horizontally in landscape mode. All of the best apps do that seamlessly as well. So you can hold it however you prefer to hold it, although some apps don't really switch and work only in portrait mode, and for certain apps they work better if you hold them a certain way, but I think it just makes using the iPad a lot more comfortable. This is sort of the first page of apps that I have, and then there's this little bar thing at the side. I don't know what the actual names of these features are anymore. This thing at the top shows you like a few of your recent photos. I can also see how much my iPad is charged over here. It's only 23%, but the Apple Pencil is fully charged. I can see the calendar, a little Spotify view, and also today's temperature. It's 28 degrees. No wonder it's a little too warm for the sweater, but I decided on it, so I didn't want to change my mind. These are mostly Apple's default apps. Everything that I didn't really want to use, I shoved inside this folder. So this is sort of like my junk folder or something like that. But we're going to move on to the second page, which is where all of the good stuff is. and everything is neatly arranged by folders, and the folders are named with emojis, not words. So let's open up like the first folder thingy. This is where I have a few of my different social media apps. Now I find social media on the whole to be a really large time suck, and I have the apps on my phone also, so I didn't really want to put unnecessary social media apps here. They're just the basics. There's YouTube works so beautifully on the iPad, and the speakers on this are surprisingly good. Other than YouTube, I have Instagram here, and Instagram does not have a separate iPad app, so it has an iPhone app, and it's very ugly, so you guys can see that there are these black borders and it's not fully utilizing the screen. Sometimes I like to browse. I have a Twitter app and also Discord. Discord is one of my favorite messaging apps that I use. Even if you're a member on my channel, then you have access to our little private Discord server, and I like communicating with people on it. I think it's much more secure than apps like WhatsApp, and it has a lot of really cool features. It was mainly used by gamers, but now a lot of different people use it because it's amazing. And I also have a Giphy app on here because I've been experimenting with making GIFs. You have to make a drawing and then you have to sort of animate it. It's a few different steps, but I wanted to just learn something new and challenge myself a little, so I've made extremely basic ones. There is one that's just basically this cat I drew, and then the cat is blinking, which I was weirdly proud of. And then there's this other one with the sun and a cloud kind of passing by. Now if I go to my second folder here, this basically has my apps that I use for productivity. There is of course Notion, then we have GoodNotes, Pages, which is one of the app that comes pre-installed on the iPad. I think it's Apple's own app. There's Notes, which is like the more basic version of Pages. And finally I have Pinterest, which is not really productivity, but I wanted to just be able to refer to like pins sometime. I have been talking about Notion so much ever since I found it. It is like the most amazing productivity app ever, and I have a lot of different like Notion boards, I believe they're called, for different parts of my life. You can see a little glimpse of it on the left side column here, but I'm just going to show you my main channel calendar. So this is where I kind of have my editorial calendar for videos that go out on this channel, and helps me visualize like the weeks ahead, see what I need to film, and when I get ideas also it helps me pin down those ideas. Like, okay, I try to upload every Monday. Sometimes I fail, but that is like my intention, and I think most of the time I manage to do it well. This is a list of all the videos that I have, and I have the dates that I intend to upload them. The ones with all of the tick marks, those are already done, but the ones at the bottom here, those aren't fully done yet. And you can see the what's on my iPad video also. I'm gonna take the part that says filmed, although it's not fully filmed. I'm filming it right now, and then when I have it fully edited, I would tick this second box, but it's not edited, so we'll untick it. And then when it's uploaded and scheduled, I would finally tick the third box also. And I have my editorial calendar on two different views. This is like the grid view, but I can actually look at it on a calendar view also, which is really useful. So you can see most of the Mondays have. And the best thing about Notion is that I can use it on the computer, I can use it on the phone and on the iPad, and whatever change I make is seamlessly like communicated through the cloud. But having this on my devices makes my life so much easier. Then other than Notion, there's GoodNotes, which is basically one of the best apps ever for like digital scrapbooking and for keeping like digital notebooks. This is a paid app. Notion is free, but I think it's a worthy investment. And I have a few notebooks here that I'm not going to show you guys. If you look on YouTube, you can see so many people doing extremely creative things with GoodNotes and actually having like bullet journals and scrapbooks and stuff. I just have a few notebooks where I jot down mostly work things, and now I can show you guys like you can literally write whatever you want. And what am I going to, that's what I wrote above, right? You can write whatever you want. It feels nice to have stuff written in your own handwriting, and of course if you make a mistake you can clean it up, which is really nice, because on a paper if I write with pen and mess it up, then it makes me really sad to keep on seeing that mistake. But with digital journaling, you can fix your mistakes very neatly. So Pages, I'm not really going to show you guys. It is like the more basic version of GoodNotes, and I don't think I will use it that much. I just kept it there. If you don't want to purchase GoodNotes, you can make do with Pages. There's Notes and Pinterest. You guys know what that is, right? This folder basically has a lot of my different editing apps as well as the apps that I use for digital art. So there's iMovie and Premiere Rush. Now these are the best possible apps for if you want to edit videos on the iPad itself. Like, I can just make a video out of anything and edit it. But the fact of the matter is, most of the time I prefer editing on my computer, so I never use it, but I'm not going to delete it. Premiere Rush is also an incredibly amazing app for editing on your device itself. There's also Clips, and I love using the Film app. Now this, as you can see, is another iPhone app, which is why it has those two bars at the side. It doesn't fill up the whole screen. So whenever I'm posting an Instagram reel, most of the time I will go to Film and just make it look a little prettier with some dust filters or something, just to add some aesthetic appeal. So the first page here is crop, and this helps you crop the video to whatever form factor based on where you're going to be posting it. So if I'm posting it on my Instagram stories, the 9:16 like aspect ratio is what I need. But if I'm posting it as an Instagram post, then you need a 4:5 aspect ratio, 1:1 if you want to post a video in square format, and then there are a few more. There's 3:2 and also 16:9. You're seeing this video on 16:9. It's the HD format. So once you figured out the crop, then there are a lot of other cool editing tools, but what I love using is just these different filters, and when you put them at full intensity, they are a little too much, but you can choose the exact intensity that you want. It makes things look really nice. This is when I was really bored. I was sketching our little Christmas tree, and I don't think I did a very good job, but it was a fun way to spend like an hour or so. Most people have heard of Kiraki. Here is my face that you guys are seeing, and it adds all these glittery effects to your video. Like you guys can see over there, there's a little bit of glitter. But there's also Storylux, and Storylux has a lot of cool, or is it Storylux? I'm not sure. It has a lot of collage templates. So often when I'm making a cover picture for an Instagram reel, or I'm making a thumbnail for YouTube, I will actually go to Storylux to make a aesthetic collage of images. And I have the paid version of this app. It is definitely worth the money. There's also Visco, which I use to edit most of my pictures and just give it a little bit of an aesthetic appeal. I never retouch my pictures. I may have done it when I was a little bit more insecure, but for a long time now I do not retouch the skin in any way. But I like adding filters just to give it some pleasing color tones and to give it some film grain. If you follow me on Instagram, pretty much any image you see is edited in Visco. I know a lot of people prefer Lightroom, and I like Lightroom for certain things, but for filters you really can't get better than Visco. I have the paid version of this also, and again I think this is money really well spent. There is Snapseed, a very cool free editing app, and it's also really easy to learn. Like in case I have posted a picture of something white and then there's dirt on it or something, then you can retouch in Snapseed. Even if I don't use Snapseed all of the time, this is definitely an app I want to have to be able to just quickly edit stuff on the go. Because if I'm posting a video, like a reel or a YouTube video, it's always edited on my computer. But if I'm posting a picture to Instagram, like 99.9% of the time I edit it on my device itself. I don't do anything too fancy on the computer. Then I have a few of the Adobe photo editing apps. There's Photoshop, there's Photoshop Express, there's Lightroom, and then come my art apps. So Photoshop is like the more advanced version, like Photoshop for iPad. It's actually better than the phone version and more closer to the full Photoshop that you get on a computer. I have the Adobe Creative Cloud subscription, which I have to say is pretty expensive, and I don't know if that's fully worth the money for me. but currently I have it, and that makes it easy to use like Photoshop and Lightroom on all of my devices if I want to, although I don't use them that much. Now on the last line, these three apps that you see, Adobe Fresco, Paper and Procreate, these are the apps that you can use for digital art. Now Procreate is the main one that I use because it's definitely the most advanced one out there that has a lot of cool features, but it's a paid app. And if you want to just get started and play around, both Adobe Fresco and Paper work really well, and they have a majority of the features, and they have a similar feel to Procreate, but they are free apps. So I'm going to show you inside Adobe Fresco. One of the coolest things on Fresco are the brushes that actually behave like watercolor brushes. So there are three types of brushes. I believe they are called the live brushes. So they have watercolor and oil brushes under it. I'm just going to pick a color. I'm going to go with like this orange, yellowy orange. Can you guys see, like, as I'm putting pressure, this is actually blending like watercolor. Then we pick another color. Let's go with this red. You can keep adding color. I did study art for a little while in school. I took some extra classes, but whenever it came to painting, that was where I was weakest, and I always made a mess really easily. So if you guys are better at watercolor and you understand like the blending techniques and stuff, you'll have a lot of fun with Adobe Fresco. Pop into like Paper, and this also has a lot of different tools that you can use. This brush again kind of behaves like watercolor. As is quite evident by this sequence, I don't really know what I'm doing right here. Just giving you guys a demo, and if you're better at art, you can do really amazing stuff. Now I'm going to open Procreate, which is my favorite art app of choice. There are many things here that are really disorganized. So there is this little stack here called YouTube thumbnails, and ever since I got the iPad, I've been hand lettering on my thumbnails instead of using a font. And I prefer to go under calligraphy and use the shale brush for hand lettering because it gives a little bit of texture like chalk. And if you see my first iPad unboxing thumbnail, the lettering does not have any texture on it. It's just like solid lettering. But then the lifestyle favorites, if you look really closely, you can see a lot of texture, which I love. But I don't think I really have the best handwriting. I still prefer hand lettering my thumbnails and doing like my titles for this video hand lettered, because I think that just makes your videos more unique. Fonts are something anybody can use, but nobody can have your exact same handwriting, so it just adds a personal touch to your video. Now we're going to go to this stack that says video stuff, and this is where I hand like letter the titles for my videos. So you'll see these at the start of every video, and they usually move a little. There's a mild animation, so I'm just going to explain how I do that also really quickly. So let's look at the title for this video, what's on my iPad Air. You actually do 3 separate frames and then you animate those frames. So you can look at it here. And I'm just going to show you guys a really quick example of how you animate it, because even if you're a beginner, it's not hard to do. So I've opened up like a new page. On Canvas, I will ask for drawing guide. That's what gives me the grid, and I'll ask for animation assist. Once I do that, I'm just going to change the background color to something a little bit dark, because I mostly letter in white, so I want the background color to be dark so that I get a nice contrast. Then I go to the calligraphy shale brush. Here we are. Pick the color white, and for settings, the frames per second I choose are usually around 3. What you have to do is write whatever you want. Just gonna write example. One of the best features with digital art is that if you make a mistake, you can just redo it very easily. So if I want to just undo what I recently did, you tap on the screen with 2 fingers and you can see the full stop is gone. If I tap again, the PLE is gone. So now we have 1 frame over here. Then we go to the bottom that says add frame, and you can kind of see what you did on the previous layer, which will help you. So you want to write basically the same thing again, and you want to roughly trace over your previous layer, but you also kind of want it to look a little bit different so that your final text animates a little. Now I'm going to add a third frame. You can usually add a ton of frames, there's no restrictions. I feel like 3 is enough. When you play it, you can see you have moving text. Remember the cat gif I showed you guys earlier also? I just made 2 separate images where I kind of like copied the same image, as in I drew it and then I copied basically the same image, but one we have the cat's eyes closed, one the cat's eyes are open, and I could combine those as 2 separate frames and make this simple gif where the cat is blinking at you. And here's a really random fun fact: the way dogs wag their tails when they want to show you that they like you, cats don't wag their tails to show affection. The only way they really show affection and they show that they trust you, which by the way it's hard to earn a cat's trust, is that they do these really slow blinks at you. So if a cat ever slowly blinks at you, it's showing you that it loves you. And if you stare at a cat without blinking, it's a sign of aggression. But if you do slow blinks back to a cat, then you're showing the cat that you love them also. Now I can show you a couple of my food drawings, and both of these drawings that I did are based on food pictures that I had previously taken. Procreate has this really cool automatic time-lapse feature wherein you can actually see your art being created, but it's kind of sped up. So this is the picture of PMS eggs. This is me quickly sort of doing the drawing. It's not very good, but this was like the first art that I actually tried on the iPad, so I was pretty happy with how it turned out. And now I can show you this drawing of ʟᴜᴜ sundae. I had this ʟᴜᴜ sundae in Bangkok and it was really yummy. It actually had sweet corn in a sundae, but it absolutely worked. You'll see that I really struggled a lot with this drawing. That was kind of the aim of it, because I really wanted to get familiar with all of the different brushes and features on Procreate. So I redid the shading on the ʟᴜᴜ's wafer like a million times, but in the end, this is the drawing. I was also trying to practice drawing sort of a more realistic scene, not a doodle, by tracing over a picture of mine. So this is a picture from a vacation in Goa a couple of years ago. And then when I hide the picture, you can see this is how far I got. So I didn't really get very far. I only did one sad looking leaf on the coconut tree, and I got most of the lines of the bungalow we were staying at. Then when you look at me, this is very weird looking. But this again was fun practice. I just ran out of steam and didn't have the patience to complete it. So that concludes the whole art folder, I guess, and now we can move on to the gaming folder, because games are definitely a big part of my iPad as well. And I actually got an Apple Arcade subscription for the first time when I purchased this. So Apple Arcade in India is really affordable. I think you pay like $100 a month and you get access to a lot of full games under that. So as long as you have the subscription, there are a bunch of games that you can play for free. So a few of these are Apple Arcade, while a few of them are free games as well as games that I bought separately. The first one here is Stardew Valley. It's pretty much one of the best games ever made. The only downside I think of Stardew Valley is that it is a game that you really get into. So it's not for short casual gaming bursts, but this is something that you spend a long time playing with. That's why I haven't really played it recently. I also have Roller Coaster Tycoon Classic. This has not been updated for the latest iPad. I have played Roller Coaster Tycoon back in the day on a computer. So this is essentially the same game ported to the iPad. There is Hidden Cats, there's Viridi, which is a really fun game because you can kind of have a virtual succulent garden there, and it works in real time. So every few days you should go and water the plants. You can also do stuff like weed them, and over a course of weeks and months they really grow. As I haven't gone to my succulent garden in a while, you can see that most of the plants are kind of parched, but as I water them you will see them perk up and get their color back like right in front of your eyes. This may not be as fun as having plants of your own, but believe me when I say it's like the next best thing. Outlanders and Mini Motorways are two games that I've really been enjoying from Apple Arcade. Outlanders is sort of this really cool survival simulation game where you have to meet some specific goals like gather resources, build houses for your villagers. I am a sucker for those type of games. The levels can be really challenging, and there are quite a few levels in here that I've had to repeat many times. Mini Motorways is really similar to this game I showed you guys in my What's on My Phone called Mini Metro, but it's a little bit more advanced. It is from the same developers that made Mini Metro, so there is no like plagiarism involved or anything. You just kind of have to connect these like factory things to these houses, and it is a game that's both calming and intense at the same time. Polytopia is a game that I got into more recently, and this one also can be extremely challenging, and you can play against the bot or the artificial intelligence, or you can also choose to play multiplayer against real players. You have to just jump these squares and advance your kingdom, and you have to destroy all of the other kingdoms. I really like how simple it is. It'll take you like 15 minutes to learn. I've spent a lot of time playing this at night, and it's a fun game to play when you're also like watching something. There are a few more games in this folder that I enjoy, but I already talked about my favorites, so I'm not going to go into each and every one. We will move on to the next folder, and this folder just basically has my entertainment stuff. So I have Disney Plus Hotstar and Amazon Prime Video. These are my two main streaming services. These two apps are basically all that I need, and Disney Plus Hotstar definitely has like the best catalog of all of the streaming apps. They have all of the HBO shows and everything. So I was just recently watching Veep on it, and I finished Veep. This is Apple's default music app. Then I have Goodreads, which is where I keep track of books. I've not been reading books that much. I have Playbooks, which is Google's like Kindle type of app where you can buy and read ebooks, because I bought an ebook from Google, so that's why I have the app. I have Audible, which is where I buy all of my audiobooks, and I really like Audible. I'd been planning to make a video on my favorite audiobooks. I haven't got around to that yet. I also have the New Yorker app, because in the new year, for some reason, I decided to give to myself a New Yorker subscription. It's really well written stuff, but it's also very centralized to New York, so it doesn't really apply to me. I really like their comics, like their cartoons, I think they call it, and their culture writing is actually really good. I also have the New York Times crossword app here, which is really fantastic if you like the New York Times crossword. I don't always manage to solve the bigger crosswords. The minis are something that I can solve very easily and very quickly. Onto this final folder. This is where I have a few different fitness and wellness apps. I have Pocket Yoga, which is one of my favorite apps for like yoga flows. I really like it. You can choose to do 30, 45 or 60-minute like practice. They talk you through it. There's this nice soothing background music. There's also this narration
Start your practice by coming into wide child's pose.
That tells you like which pose you need to go to. So I think that really concludes the whole What's on My iPad thing. These are all of the apps that help me with both my uptime and my downtime. This video was pretty detailed, and I talked about everything that I wanted to. But in case you guys have any questions about the iPad or any of the specific apps that you think I can answer, feel free to leave a comment below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.